And with that, I'd like to invite Kai Wulff from Google. Kai almost needs no introduction. A pioneer of internet access in Kenya, and now the director of access field development at Google. Sounds like a title that covers a multitude of sins.
Thank you. Good morning. I speak English. I understand a little bit French, but you wouldn't like me to speak anything here in French because it would be an embarrassment to the language. I'm German by trade, so forgive me for my slight accent, which you might realize I do it on purpose because it makes me sound more sexy. I'm not going to have any slides, and I'm not going to try to explain to experts the technology. And if you know about my background, I'm a very fixed line guy. I'm a big believer in fiber as a technology that brings endless capacities to the continent. I'm a big believer that we have to have information highways that are running on technologies which are totally unlimited in terms of uptake. And I'm a big fan of anything that brings more access to more people within the continent. That's my speech, by the way. So where has the problem been? If you look at fixed line technology, if you look like what has been doing is, if you auction frequencies, if you're going into a country and you're writing a business case, it's usually the replication of business cases that have been done in the Western world. GSM Revolution, nobody believed in the beginning that GSM will be a big thing for Africa. There were prognoses in Kenya, for example, that 50,000 users will be the peak of uptake ever, because the model that came from the Western world is something like, it will cost you $100 a month. So you make a cut, who can afford $100 a month? That's 50,000 people. So these are the people who are going to have it. Mistake was done is that with the uptake of GSM, income levels are rising because people actually do something productive with the connectivity they acquire. And secondly, with volumes, prices went down and people were creative enough to find out new business cases. Prepaid was not a concept that came from the West. Prepaid was something that was developed on the continent. Because of the simple need is, I can't commit, if I have a relatively lower income, I can't commit $50 or $100 every month and know that I will be able to pay it. I can commit when I need something, I commit a certain amount of money, the smaller the better. The success of, for example, Bamba 50 or Bamba 25 and Bamba 10, that's all Kenyan, that was Safaricom, dropping the denomination of a scratch card down to pennies. That was because it's a budgeting thing. I need to make a phone call. I will buy myself the phone call in terms of denomination and I put it on my phone. So that even shared devices was something that nobody had ever envisaged. Nobody had ever envisaged in the Western world that somebody might run around and not have a phone, but have a SIM card. And then their entrepreneur will enable him to borrow against money or free a mobile phone, put in a chip. And there were some vendors that were very clever that made the cover of the mobile phone very easily detachable, so the SIM card change can be done much quicker. And they had an impact in the market. So these were all developments that came out of a necessity in the market to do things more efficiently and more clever in a very African way. And sharing, and this is where I come to the TV white spaces, sharing of something that is not used is a very, very efficient way of lowering the cost and lowering the barrier of entry. The same like sharing a mobile phone. If I don't use it to make a call, if I don't expect a call to come in, I can make money out of giving the phone to somebody else to make the call because he wants to do it. Why would I put $50 in an account if I only use it over the month, now as my credit balance, if I know that I can buy food with my money, and only when I need the call, then I'm going to spend money and load it on my phone, and then I use it. Have you ever driven in a taxi in the average African environment? Look at the fuel gauge. Have you ever found a taxi in Africa where the fuel tank is full? Tell me, and I want to go there, I want to see it myself. I haven't. Because usually you get in the taxi, the guy knows where you want to go, he goes to the fuel station, he puts enough fuel to bring him there and back. And if you ask him, you know, depends on where you are, if he wants to scare you, it says it's because of security, he doesn't want to be hijacked with a full tank. That's a budgeting thing, isn't it? It's not about, oh my God, I'm getting hijacked. No, oh my God, I'm getting hijacked and I have a fuel tank that is full and I might lose so much money. So it's simply a budgeting issue. Why would I fuel my tank full when I don't need it now full? And that's something, why would I reserve a room next to me, to use your picture, if I don't need it? Why would I reserve a room somewhere across the country if I'm never going to stay there? But this is how allocation is done, and it's all after the fact. Currently, if I want to know what is happening in the spectrum in a country, and we did wireless, even in my previous job, we did wireless, and it was always the same battle. There is no data available to know what I could even apply for. So theoretically, if you want frequencies in many, many countries, because there is not sufficient measurement and data, and even in the Western world, I would have to apply basically for every frequency there ever was, and then somebody has to run around and measure if it's actually available, and then what is easier, send me a rejection letter straight away. I want this frequency, no, it's given. That's how it works. Now, TV white space is a database, best practice standards. What is being done is, first of all, my device registers. My device says, I want. Somebody else knows if it's available or not. I use it, I don't interfere. Isn't that a very, very clever way? Isn't that the same way we're using the roads? You're looking into the road, no other car is coming, I can use it. Doesn't mean I'm just bouncing my car into the what we call in Kenya roundabout. You know, if you blink, you lose. But you look, you don't blink, but you still look if there's another car. So this is how it should work, in my opinion. Because it's not about including always the same people within the same urban centers where I can draw a very easy income line. It's to include the 70% of people that might not even participate in formal trade, that might do barter, but they have stories to tell. They have information, they have content, they have relevance to the internet ecosystem, and they will be able to sort out the trade imbalances we're having in the internet. If you look at what is consumed on the internet, it's all inbound. If I see those cable systems that are coming into the continent, I love them. High capacity, but you know what they are? They are two-way streets. They transport exactly the same amount of bits in and out, theoretically. If you look at the actual usage, they're transporting 90% in and 10% out. Now just imagine what this does in a trade balance. Forget it's the internet. Just think about what it does with trade balance if a continent is importing 90% and is only exporting 10%. How long is this sustainable? We don't build fiber networks, submarine networks that are 90-10. On satellite we did this. There was always less out than in. Submarine cable systems are symmetric. Why are we not using them symmetrically? Because we're depriving the people who have stories to tell from telling the stories, because we're keeping the cost of transferring their stories into the internet ecosystems way too high. By, for example, high frequency costs, by not using best practices. So I believe TV white spaces is a big, big chance for taking a now proven technology, because with the trials, I think the technology was significantly proven out. It does not interfere, it works well. Now, using the database approaches that are accepted around the world to stay within the volume game that we have to do to drive down prices even further, and then be the leaders in terms of adopting that technology and adopting the standards on this continent, because the need here is the highest to do it. And the opportunities are the highest because we are latecomers in terms of what spectrum has been used on television channels. There are not 50 television channels around. There is more space, so let's use it and don't wait and don't waste time on it. So that's more or less what I wanted to say, unless you believe I have forgotten anything. So it's all about relevance, it's about trade balances, and it's about the continent leading that revolution and not waiting for the West to come up with business model that we then make better in the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Kai. I just want to say before I introduce Paul that in a way this is a kind of a realization of a dream for me around spectrum, is to actually stand on the same stage with Google and Microsoft. I think it's a very cool thing and an exciting sign.